All right, more battery feedback for those that care. And if you've been watching these videos about the Optimas and that, they're over 5 years old and just been replaced. At that age, I wanted to replace it anyway. I had my suspicions on it, but also had my suspicions I know how good they are. And as it turns out, the results are the blue D34M is probably almost as good as new. So we've got the new battery in. That was 13.1-ish up to 13.2 volts on the bench with no load, and it was sitting at 13.1. It was there for a day, it didn't change. As soon as we put it in the vehicle and connected the battery, we drove the vehicle a little bit, half an hour, just, you know, that would have given a bit more charge to make it typical how the other battery got looked at. As soon as we switched the car off, it stayed on a higher voltage, up around 13.3, 13.2, 31, started to drop quickly. This is less than 24 hours later. Let's have a look, right? I don't know if you can see that. You can. It's 12.6, guys. So the fridge isn't on, right? So the fridge is switched off. You can see that. Fridge is definitely switched off. Same temperature in and out of the fridge at the moment. What we found is, and somebody, you can have a bit of a laugh and go, hey, he replaced his battery or nothing. No. Well, we want to have fresh batteries anyway, because what we explained, the way we use the vehicles, we want reliability change every 5 years. But that being said, maybe you shouldn't do that. This battery won't go to waste. It'll go into another vehicle, and the R&D will continue, and we'll probably get the 10 years out of it, like we've heard other people. We haven't ever got 10 years. That's why I wanted to keep it and push out even longer. It'll go into another vehicle and continue. So what we're going to do now is, so you can see 12.6, which is around about, look, the other one might have gone down to 12.5 in the same period of time. Let's have a look at a couple other things. So here's the new batteries, look much like the old ones, right? Now this is what we've got. We haven't got anything connected on this one that could be creating a load, but there is a bit of a load on this one. And if you've been listening and watching, as I said, I suspect since I connected the power outlets at the back, I redid the back of the vehicle a couple of years ago when we put the storage system in, and I installed some USB outlets with little blue lights. There's also USBs in the front of the car, and the voltmeter. Now, so we've got basically this wire going to that's the wire going to the back of the vehicle, right? When we measured the amps on that, there's about 0.11. Okay, so not 1 amp, but 0.1, which is quite a lot for a voltmeter and a couple of little lights and whatever. And then you've also got this wire that goes to the front of the vehicle inside the cabin, where we've got a couple other USBs with little blue lights and whatever. Then you've also got another wire that goes directly down through there to this side of the vehicle that powers the UHF, which also uses a little bit. So I would suspect, hard to get in there and measure every wire individually, but I'm suspecting around 0.15 of an amp draw, which is what's pulling that battery down. So let's go and have a look at the old battery on the bench that's been sitting there overnight to compare to what this new battery was 13.1. So a new one with no load on the bench might be 13.1 after you've made sure it's fully charged and let it settle. Maybe a bit lower than that before you know, because they only charge them sort of, it's like an 80% thing, to explain it best. Let's have a look at the voltage of the batteries on the bench.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Okay, so these batteries, as they came out of the vehicle, not charged, not loaded. This one in the vehicle was down around 12.65. We've done some battery tests on that with a number of different testers, and we believe that it's around about 70% condition still, right? So it's still a good battery. It's got some life left in it. I would say, you know, a few more years, but it's certainly not 100%. We want 100% batteries. That's why we changed them at 5 years, which is long for a normal battery, but not long for these, which is what we've proven right now. Let's have a look at here we've got, see the clips volts? I've got the clips on my hands. We're just going to use those. It'll give you a close enough type thing. Right, we'll just connect those and you can just have a look. There, look at that, guys, 12.81. So, the brand new battery off the shelf, the Optima, brand new off the shelf, voltage, the red battery, the brand new one, the one that was in the car before we put it in the car, on the bench, was 12.75, okay? Then we put it on charge. We gave it a bit of a boost, not for long, only took half an hour to an hour. It was showing full, the voltage went over 15. So we took the charger off it. We let it settle 24 hours. It was still sitting at about 12.8 volts. Now we've got a battery, as it's come out of the vehicle, same scenario. Actually, I might have put the same charger on it for 20 minutes and it's gone same thing, 15, around 15 or so volts pretty quickly. All the lights are on. Yep, she's full. Take it off. It's been at least 24 hours and we're looking at the same 12.81. So that says to me, remember my guide of what a good battery is, and you're probably sick of hearing it, but I'm going to drum it into you so you know. It's a fact. A good battery, when I say static voltage sitting there like that, this is kind of how it's got to be. If you've just seen, if it's in the vehicle, even though we thought there was no load, there's some load, because look, the results are in. Every time I've tested this battery in the car, 12.65, 12.65. You've seen it in other videos. Guys, if you haven't seen the other videos on the Optimas, just put in Optima, try and watch them in the order of the date that I added them, because it's like a whole series of information on Optimas and you will understand the facts about batteries. Now, these batteries have never had a DC-DC charger on them. It's not needed. The most reliable value for money is that Red Arc SBI12. I don't care what brand you use. I choose those because Australian company, they're one of the most popular used isolators. Everybody used these isolators until the brainwashing of needing DC-DC chargers started in the last quite a few years. Let's say probably started, I don't know, more like 10 years ago. But in the last 5 years, it's been really, oh yeah, you got to have a DC-DC. And people say, oh, it won't get charged properly and all these sorts of things, right? Every circumstance, every battery, every charger, every setup, depending where your batteries is, there's so many variables. But for the everyday bloke that's got 2 batteries under the bonnet, the Optimas are great. The SBI12 works a little bit better with a booster diode. That's what we use, boosted up about 0.5 volt, and the batteries get better charged than they do in our other vehicles that have got DC-DC chargers, simply because the DC charger, it doesn't charge the right voltage without a load on the battery. You need to have a fridge running to get the right charge rate out of it. It goes back and floats back to 13.5 volts way too soon. Even if the battery hasn't been charged or used for a week, you start the car, you get 14.2, 3, 4, whatever, for about 10 minutes, 5 minutes, and then back to 13.5, and it never gets fully charged. So the DC-DC can actually be a problem. So be very careful when choosing what you want to choose. Let's get onto this blue battery over here and see what that voltage is, right? So are we clear here? Same voltage as a new battery, okay? We've tested it and it says 70%. The same battery tester we tested the new battery with, that was 100%. We even put the CCAs up, it was still 100%. So absolutely, definitely the new battery is better than this one, but there's nothing wrong with this. In the crank test where you just listen to it, that just go follow your nose, gut feeling type thing, this cranks like crazy. It's never been an issue, okay? So it's not going to die quickly or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? So it's a matter of just monitoring it, checking that voltage. But if you want to do a true test on these batteries, we've just demonstrated you do need to disconnect them. You can't rely on testing them all the time connected, because there is a draw. There's a slight, voltage amp draw on the batteries when they're connected. So let's move it across to this one. Make sure you put the positive and the negative on the right side. That's right. And see, the minus is black, negative, right? Look at that, 12.99. Now, do you remember, for the smart people that are watching all the videos and watching till the end, getting your education, you probably, you just replace these batteries for nothing. No, not for nothing, because as I said, these have been, just remember this poor bugger here, he's been looked after, and doesn't it just go to show how well they'll look after you if you look after them? It's been looked after. These batteries have been looked after, but they've also been hammered. I won't say this one's been hammered, because it's just been looked after. It hasn't had a load. This is a looked after battery, and I'm very happy with the life and what I got out of that. For, like I said, for about $600 for the pair, 5 years, who cares? Reliability all the way, and it does the job. Now, this one over here, when it was in the vehicle, we were seeing it drop overnight. Yeah, it was going down like the other one you just saw, 12, 7, 6, 5. And I noticed, as I said a number of times, I noticed when I redid that rear storage system, that's where the voltage really started pulling down. I sort of thought to myself, nah, and I didn't bother checking what the draw on, and I sort of went, yeah, I know there's a little bit, and I could have guessed what it was. I probably would have guessed 0.05, so I would have guessed a bit less than what it was, but I figured it's that small, you'd have to have better equipment than what I've got to measure it accurately, so I thought there's no point. I know there's a bit of a draw there, but and I so guys, just be wary. If you're going to check these batteries and you think, they're no good or whatever the case may be, get them out of the vehicle, give them a really good charge, and look at this one. Nearly 13 volts. Like technically it's got a load on it. It's charging and running this, right? So it's going 12.99. So it's about 13 or so volts, all right? The new one was 13.1, so it's not a new battery, but both of these batteries, this one tests really good actually. Now our next part of the test, and it'll be in our next video, there will be another video, we're not done yet. Okay, what we're going to do now is, we're going to make sure this one's fully charged, then we're going to place it, we're going to connect a fridge directly to it, and we're going to run that fridge, and we're going to wait till the weather's right. We're not going to run it in 10-degree weather. We're not going to run it in 40-degree weather, which is what you have to do. We're going to be, in fairness, we're going to run it in mild, sort of about 25-degree weather. So your typical middle of the road type testing. We're going to half fill the fridge because your fridge is never empty or never full. We're going to run with averages. We're going to open and close the fridge every time we walk past, so that way some hot air goes in there, and that's why it's best to keep your fridge full, because less air, because the air changes quickly. You open the lid, all the cold air goes out, right? So you keep your fridge full and closed is the best thing you can do, right? To keep that coolness in there, and the compressor doesn't have to cut in, right? When the compressor cuts in on the fridges I'm using, they run about 2.5 amps, right? So when they cut in, they may be about 3 or so, but they're going to come back. They usually run at about 2.5 amps. So what that means is, while it's running, that's what it's using. So quick calculation, if this is 55 amp hours, you're only going to be able to use about 30. I'm just saying abouts here, depends how low you want to run it. So you divide 2.5 into that. That'll give you how many hours it can run constantly for. So if you're using it as a freezer in 45-degree heat, then basically, yeah, that's your calculation. But if you're using it as a fridge and it's not that hot, and the compressor's only running, say, 10 minutes in every hour, that's 10 minutes out of 60, right? You divide it by 6 or whatever, you know, do your mathematics. That's why you went to primary school, basic mathematics, and you can work out how long this battery will last. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to go, okay, this is what the fridge uses. This is what it's set on. This is the temperature. This is what it should use. And I've had Optimas that are stuffed. I have had Optimas that are stuffed. There was one, we had a VSR that wasn't working. We're on a trip. It ran the battery right down. Absolutely killed it. It did kill it. It killed it. And then I tried to recover the battery. It didn't work for me. It would only run a fridge for about 10 hours before the battery went flat and it cut out. It was a fridge that cuts out though. That was probably part of the problem. The low voltage cutout. We had about 9 hours on a CF50. So this one, bada bing, we're going to put a fridge on it and watch out for the next video. If you got something out of that, it's really, see how it's really important to follow each video, because you'd be thinking, oh, his Optima's pretty well stuffed, and there's people making comments like, oh, they're rubbish, get one of these. They're not rubbish, they're like the best batteries you can get, 5.5 years old, and they're not new, but I'll tell you what, they're in damn good condition. You've just seen it. That's Optima's for you. That's the truth. Bada bing. If you liked it, you got some info, please remember to give us a thumbs up, and yeah, subscribe, turn the bell on. If this is the first one you've seen, you might want to go back and watch our other Optima videos and our videos on batteries. Search our channel, batteries, charging, Optima, things like that. Thanks for watching, guys. See ya.